everybody. Welcome to Ad America. I want to hear a big applause for all of us here. Yay, that's the spirit. Back again with me, Aninda, one of the guests here in Ad America, and we want to welcome our audience joining us online. Well, we have exciting news coming soon, so make sure you stay updated to our social media. So, at America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center, and our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to learn more about the United States. On this event, we'll be listening to lovely stories about diversity in the U.S., that is, embracing tolerance and love in a multicultural family. But before we begin, how about we spice things up a little bit with a trivia? The question for today is it true or false? The multiracial population in the US has remained the same since 2010. So just take a guess, is it true or false? And let us know your answer on our social media because in the end of the event, we'll do a live shout out for those of you who can guess the answer correctly. Other than that, don't forget to take a selfie and tag at America's Instagram account. Without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to our moderator today, Pradana Ahmad Arfiano, 2017-2018 KLES alumni. To Kak Arfi, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. First and foremost, on behalf of the Ad America team and the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta, I would like to thank all the audiences here in the studio and on every platform from all around the world for attending today's event, Embracing Tolerance and Love in a Multicultural Family. My name is Pradana Matarfiano, or you can call me RV, and I'm here as your discussion moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, with us here today are amazing and inspirational figures in embracing tolerance and love in multicultural family. The first one, Program Coordinator at Binantar Budaya, IFS Indonesia, a volunteer-based intercultural education organization, has managed student exchange program for 14 years, including the Kennedy Luger Youth Exchange and Study Yes program, a 1994 and 1995 AFS Intercultural Program alum to France. And this is Kak Sari, who supports the vision and mission of Binantar Budaya in creating future leaders through intercultural leading and exchange programs. Kak Sari?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for welcoming me here. After a long while, finally
Yes.
we can meet in person
Yes,
here
of course.
in America. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is an exchange student who's been hosted, who's currently working as senior manager at Procter & Gamble, a 2012-2013 KLES alum to St. Charles, Illinois, representative of the Indonesian delegation in Better Understanding for a Better World, Orlando, Florida in 2013, Indonesia representative for YSLI, Critical Thinking in the Classroom Regional Workshop in 2018, 2017 Young Leaders for Indonesia, Wave 5 alum, an intensive leadership development program. Please welcome Kak Ari Haminov Rizky. Good evening, Kak.
Hello, Arfi and everyone.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, and joining us live from Texas, she is a host mom for exchange student. Her family has been involved in conducting tolerance and multiculturality for 10 years as a host family from 2009 to 2020. Hosted 15 students over the years from Indonesia, Germany, Thailand, Turkmenistan, Russia, Poland, China, Pakistan, Ghana, Montenegro, Egypt, and Jordan. She is also a representative for Council on International Education Exchange and International Student Exchange to place exchange students with loving families in the USA from 2010 to 2017. Please welcome Mrs. Bunny O'Toole.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mrs. O'Toole, or good morning.
It's good morning for me, but evening for you, yes.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here and participate in this program. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Maybe for the beginning for our show, um, can you please tell us what does family mean from your perspective, Mrs. Bunny?
Before I started hosting exchange students, family was the group of people that you were born into. I've since learned that family is a group of individuals that support and love one another regardless of the group of individuals they were born into. We have our work families, we have our church families, we have our chosen families, friends, exchange students, neighbors, that sort of thing. Family is just the people that love you and that you love back and support you no matter what.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Bunny. How about you, Kasari? What's your vision in family about family?
Well, it depends. It's a unit that, well, we, before I am involved in this world of student exchange program, family is just, a unit that uh, people that are closest to you, that are natural to your biological. That's natural family. But when I started um, being involved in the student exchange program myself, so I went on program, and I discovered that these strangers can also become my families. Someone that were I I I I, I never knew them before, but then I arrived at their home, um, living with them for 1 year, for about 10 months, and then I left as a family. So I've been in, you know I have a second family in France. I They are strangers at first, but now they're one of the closest person, or one of the closest people that I have now. So yes, strangers can become family as long as you are able to open your arm, in your heart. Then in Indonesian is ikhlas ya.
Yes.
So accepting someone else into your home, into your heart, into your arms, then you can become family.
Okay. Moving on to Kaari. What does a family mean in your perspective, Kak?
Okay, thank you, Arfi, for asking these questions. Yeah, I think Ms. Boni and also Kak Asari already answered a lot on what's their perspectives on family, right? But for me, let me take us back to 10 years. Ari from 10 years ago, right? Ari from 10 years ago just getting the chance to go to the US, and I'm just back then at 17 years old, For me, family at the time is nothing, because uh, back in my family here in Indonesia, we value hardship. I came from a very traditional family back in West Sumatra, and my family is quite rigid, and they do what the traditional or like the conventional Indonesians family do, right? The fathers goes to work, mothers taking care of the houses, the children must to study, etc., etc. So just do things that you should do, right? But so I'm not really close to my family if I'm saying that 10 years ago. And then I get the chance to go to United States, meet my very lovely family, the Surtas family. There's Craig and Leslie as my host parents, and also Ben as his host brothers. It's very different versus what I have here in Indonesia, because they really value the togetherness. They are very close to each other. Every single thing they celebrate, like holiday, like birthday, even like something that really cheesy, like they have a I don't know, like a wedding anniversary. I don't know, but then that you celebrate things like that, and they do a lot of celebration, and they teach me something that the family um, should celebrate together, And from that I back to Indonesia, and I actually influence my family now here in Indonesia to do simple things, to give, to share love to each other, not only just focus on what the task that you should do, like most of Indonesian family always do, right? But here I try to and also already change how I operate with my own family now. And now I'm already at 27 years old, just got married 2 years ago, and then just have a get blessed with a beautiful daughter. And it's time for me now to apply what I've learned from my host family in the US, and also, of course, merge the culture and what I've also value here in Indonesia from my own family as well. So it's a great opportunity. If I'm looking back 10 years ago versus me now, thank you for like Miss Bonnie and all the host parents out there that actually really changed a teenager's mindset to be knowing how to do to be a parents in the future.
Okay, thank you, Kari. Also, congratulations for your new family.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, moving on to Miss Bunny. Can you please tell us a short story about being a host family in the U.S.? Please, thank you.
There's so many stories. I think one of the best years that we had hosting, we actually hosted a girl from Thailand and a girl from Turkmenistan. And it was just so enlightening and so amazing to have a Buddhist and a Muslim in our Christian home, and to be able to learn the differences and the similarities, and um, just be able to embrace everything that we all had to offer. But I will tell you, the little girl from Turkmenistan, she presented some issues at the very beginning. She got off the plane and rushed into my arms and started rubbing my stomach. And I was like, what did I get myself into? This was only, the first student that I had hosted from this region. And, so I had to kind of, okay, we don't hug like that here. But once we get home, let's talk about how you interact with your mother and stuff like that. So there was a huge learning curve. This child had never slept in her own bed. She'd always shared a bed with her mom. And in our culture at 17, that was very weird. And so we had to kind of train her how to sleep in her own bed, and how not to get up and come down to our room, or feel scared being alone for so long. So yeah, we had some ups and downs and everything, but she is in our top, in our heart still.
Okay, what a great story, Mrs. Bunny. Um, there are a lot of things that are happening to host families, like funny stories. And me and myself, with my host parents, we were really sharing a lot of similarities, and we were bonded so good from the first time that we met. And yeah, it was a really great start for us. Okay, moving on. As a program coordinator, Kasari, you are dealing with a lot of exchange students, right?
Yes.
Okay, especially in terms of understanding different culture, or any story about culture difference. Do you have any interesting story?
Oh, I have a lot.
Yeah, can you please tell
I mean,
one of them?
Let's do that.
I mean, I'm dealing with one country. I mean, I'm dealing with Indonesian students going abroad, and Bonnie here is dealing with being an American family, welcoming students from various countries over the years, right? So we're kind of in the same boat, well, sailing on the same sea in a different boat. There are a lot of interesting stories, but it's usually started from expectations. So exchange students going abroad, they have expectations on what would my family would be, how my schools would be, my community, how are they going to accept me, are they going to love me, are they going to like me? And then on the other hand, host families also have expectations. Like they have, oh, I'm going to host Indonesian students. This is what I know about Indonesia, and this is what I know about Indonesian kids. And before the two actually meet each other, they only know each other from papers, from forms. So it's only normal when they actually meet. The first couple of weeks would be either filled with awkward silence or chaotic mess. But that's one of the beauty of exchange programs, I think. So well-seasoned host families and hosting communities are usually actually looking forward to those kind of mess. But what we learn over the years is that managing expectations is always important, because these kids are going abroad alone at the age of 16, 17 years old, not knowing anything. They're leaving their natural families, their natural parents, and the natural families have to hand their kids to strangers abroad. So yeah, naturally everyone has expectations. So that's what the most interesting part, I think, in exchange program. So the first couple of weeks and the first 3 months, those are the most crucial period of time. After that, it's gonna be, I think, easier for everyone. So that's the normal, so to speak, adjustment period. So yeah.
Okay. Talking about expectations, Kari. Now, before you were going to the US to meet your host family or joining to your program, you obviously have expectations about what it's going to be like there in the US. Do you have any perspective or any funny story about your departure to the US?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Indonesia. Kasari.
I
Please,
know
please,
your
please.
story.
You know about him?
Let me tweak a bit the
Stories
story,
very
ya,
well.
Kak Asari, to be more encouraging for everyone to go to the US, right? So back then, right, Arfi, you know, typical 17 years old from Indonesia, we only get a lot information coming from TV shows or movies, you know. I only get that information. Maybe probably now we have a lot of source of information from social media and a lot of sharing platform, right? But back then only those movies or like TV shows, you know, and probably some of the story from the senior, for example, right? So what I pictures from the living a teenager's life in the US will be so wild, you know, like, okay, I'm going to be a stranger in a very strange country. People are very, I might say, open, you know, like be very open in terms of how they approach each other, approach their sexually the different genders, and also uh, the the what we call this, like the school life, which very different from here, right? They have a different way how to express love, you know. So I learn from those movies, you know. So I expect at the time will be like, okay, maybe when I go to the US, I can have a new girlfriend, something like that, right? Like bule girlfriend, have a relationship, and then also can experience how the teenagers or love story in the US, just like the movie that we usually have right back there. So that's my expectation. But after that, coming to the US, is quite different. Apparently, there's not so much difference versus what happens here in Indonesia. So the teenagers, they still have homework, they still have to do a lot of home chores, you need to be present in the family and help the household. So I do a lot of that. I'm not sure about the other family, but in my family, it's not really different. The school are not really different. We are focusing on schools. We are focusing on sports. The family go to meet the relatives, so on. So apparently, just quite the similar behavior, or what we can say, the activities are quite similar, but the situation, or the place are different. But for me, that's something that are the expectation that I have. But after all, I'm focusing more on what I can build the relationship in terms of this family and also friends and schools, rather than focusing on my initial expectation.
Well, there are also expectations about how or what American families are. I know that you are also surprised with your own host family.
For sure.
Because there are host families. I mean, families are different. I mean, exchange families or host families are very diverse. If we're talking about exchange programs in the US, you will see any kind and every kind of host families that you can imagine or you can picture. So there are a lot of expectations coming from Indonesian students and Indonesian natural families in terms of what kind of host family will my daughter or my son is getting. So there are some parents are actually questioning about why is my kid not hosted by a family of a Caucasian family. Not meaning to be racist, but it's just a lack of information of how American families are. What kind of families can be host families. So any kind of families coming from any kind of backgrounds can be host families, and that's also part of an expectation that we have to manage. Some are getting single parents, some are getting multi or biracial families, some have adopted children from different racial backgrounds. I think you were also hosted by a single father.
Yeah, I was hosted by a single father.
There you go.
Papa Han, if you're there.
So yeah, that's one of the biggest expectation might be the composition of racial and religious background of host family is part of one of the biggest expectations.
Okay. It's really challenging for me too to get to know my host parents, especially in like moments where we don't connect. There are moments like we were just standing or sitting in silence in the living room and just doing nothing, watching TV. But for some period of time, there are some moments where I can really connect to him, like without talking any words, without speaking any words. We can just do something or probably do some chores. Well, that's basically like the moment where I found the click to get to know my parents, like doing chores and everything, doing something without being asked first. It's really interesting. Like it's really an experience.
Yeah, I'm adding the point that you've mentioned, like Arfi. One thing that I observe also in the American family, right? They like to have a family dinner together, right? Most of us, I'm not sure about the other family, right? But what I observe, Indonesian family could be eating in front of the TV, or like, eating alone in their own room, right? But what I've observed in most of the stories that I have about the host family, they encourage to do a family dinner together, and also even do some board game nights together. There's something like that that I found when I was hosted is really helpful for me to get to know my host family, and then can adjust really easier, be more easier to understand what they like and how they operate at home.
Mhm. And those activities that you mentioned also gave trust between us as host, as the exchange student, and them as the host parents, right? To Miss Bonnie, how did you manage to develop a sense of trust of a total stranger in the family? From your experience as a host family that adopted student from other countries, do you do like fun games, or basically just talking about something after all the activities on the day? Like, what did you do?
We did an awful lot of talking, especially at the beginning. Talk about our expectations, their expectations. One of the best tools that I think that we had was when the student arrived. We always had a welcome basket on their bed, and included in that basket was a key to the house, which showed that we trusted them, but then also a list of our family rules or expectations written down so that they could see exactly what we expect. Um, you know, you have access to the refrigerator, but we prefer that you not access it at 3 in the morning. We expect that you will do your own laundry, but we'll teach you how to use our machine. Those sorts of things. And a lot of talking. I cannot emphasize enough how important that was to just continually have that line of communication open. And whenever there was an issue or a miscommunication, address it immediately. If you let it sit for even a couple of days, it just festers and becomes so much harder to deal with.
Yeah, that's true though. From an administrator's perspective, one thing can lead to another. It could snowball into something big. So I'm the administrator. I don't I'm dealing with more. I communicate with the natural family and local chapters recruiting these students. We are not allowed to directly talk to host families. There's a chain of communication. So we really appreciate as a staff. We really do appreciate if it it's okay if you're informing us about little things or little problems or some little problems before it gets too wild. Then it's going to be hard for us to communicate to the natural family what is happening here, what do we expect the natural family or would do, and how do we convey the message to the administrators on the other side. So yeah, I really do appreciate it if the volunteers and the host families are getting into it whenever there's a problem, a misunderstanding, or any single thing that stuck out like a sore thumb, as we say, or a pattern that is a bit off. When it's addressed directly, it's going to be so much easier for everyone, even for the students themselves. Because sometimes they don't know that they're making mistakes, or they don't know because they have their own habits for 17 years before they're leaving for the US. And then arriving in the US, they don't know that their habits creates a nuisance to the host family. And then the host family doesn't, if they don't address that directly, then it becomes, things are becoming off balance, and that could lead, one thing could lead to another. So creating
I
trust can be like that.
I have the perfect story as a local coordinator here in the US that goes right along with that. I was supervising a young lady from South Korea, and her host mom called me up and said, "That's it, I'm done. I need this child moved from my home." And I, whoa, what happened? What happened? And she said, that she's a liar. I said, "I'm on my way. Let's come see what's going on and everything." And so I asked the host mom, "What makes you think she's a liar?" And she said, "Every day I ask her, did you make it, is your bed made?" And she says, "Yes." And then I walk through walk by the room later, and the bed's not made. She lies to me every day. I'm like, "Okay, let's get to the bottom of this." Go and talk to the student. And, we're in her room, and her blankets on her bed are in disarray. And I say to her, "Is your bed, did you make your bed this morning?" And she said, "No, it was already made." And I thought, something's not quite right with the language, with the interpretation of this word here. And so started asking more and more questions. Come to find out, this student had never slept in a bed, so to speak. She had slept in a mat on the floor. And so every morning when her host mom said, "Is your bed made?" she would look at the structure of the bed, and it had not fallen to the ground. So therefore it was still made. She had no clue that making the bed meant tidying the blankets and pulling them up and placing the pillows just so. So it was a lack of communication right there that had continued and continued for so long that the host mom was now so frustrated she wanted her out. And it was just a total miscommunication that was resolved in just a few moments.
Okay, that was a quite interesting story. Like misinterpretation, it quite often happens in family, especially between two different backgrounds, right? Okay,
Yep.
moving on. Kak Ari, is there any tips for future exchange students or host family out there to gain or develop a sense of trust?
Okay. Yeah, I think Miss Bonnie and Kak Sari also already share a lot, right, on the how we need to have set the expectation first in the beginning before we start the hosting period, and also reach out to communicate if you have something that bothers you, both for the students and also the host parents, right? One thing that I think also would be a great benefit for the students is to speak up more, right? If they feel uncomfortable with the rules or the expectation from the host parents, they need to address it, in the as early as possible. Um, but sometimes for students, right, 17 years old, we're very shy of, um, for Indonesian especially, right? We don't say something that bothers us to others. We keep it to ourselves mostly. Here, that's okay. But there, in United States, in American family, if you don't say what bothers you, they will never know. They will they'll think you're okay, right? So I think for the students that would like to go to other countries, no matter where is it, right? You need to speak up more and say what you feel about yourself, about the surroundings, and if your host family, I'm not saying because the host family has a lot of differences, right? Maybe there are some that are familiar with this kind of student, maybe they're not. maybe this is a new host family, right? They are not really capable to address the elephant in the room at the first. I think because the students will be very reserved. So the host family need to take the first actions usually. But if there's a host family are probably new or also don't have enough experience to host, I think the best possible way is to reach out and seek help. That's why we have like Asari here, right? And also
here.
back in the the hosting country, there will be also a local coordinator that would help us to bridge that gap, so that and also find a solution together.
So communication is key, right?
Yes.
Okay, Kak Sari, do you have anything to say?
What sometimes we don't, well, people might not know that operating an exchange program is not only between host family and the student, the exchange student, but there are a network of support. Not only supporting the students, we tend to think that the students need support, need to be supported, but host families need to be supported too. So that's where the volunteers, the coordinators, and a set of those support system comes in. Even the school, there are always a counselor at school. There's always a counselor or someone that you can talk to. And it goes both ways. Students always have someone to talk to other than the host family. And host families have the volunteers or someone that they can talk to as well. So it's a network. So it does take a village to work on an exchange program, to bring one student from one country to another. So the support system really matters. There's also a communication chain that we have to abide to. Not always that rigid. We can be flexible sometimes, but yes, a network of support system. That's, I think, one of the most important thing that happens in operating an exchange program.
Okay, so the communication is key, and knowing who your support system
Yes.
are
Uh-huh.
in the country that you left and the hosting country, right? Okay.
Yep.
Miss Bunny mentioned earlier about the house key. I still have my house key.
I remember that.
Yeah, I still have my house key. It's in my bedroom key now. Okay, Kak Sari.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of any complaint or being asked for suggestions by a program participant about the difficulty in adjusting to their new family?
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah.
As I said, the first 3 months, I always receive questions, even complaints from program participants, from the student, from their natural family. Why is my daughter not allowed to eat? My daughter is not getting enough sleep. Or why is this and that? Well, I always get that in the first 3 months. As I said before, it's different expectations raised either by the students or by the natural family, because I work with natural families or families that Indonesian families. But then again, I try to bridge that communication by always diving into it. Like Bonnie said, okay, I need to get to the bottom of this. What makes you think that your daughter is not getting enough sleep or enough food? And what happened? What did your daughter said, for example, and etc. So I need to dig deep and dive deeper before I can actually try to calm the natural family down. Or if the problem or complaint or how do we say this? Then that sense of problem keeps on going, then I can always contact my counterparts in the U.S. If I'm sending Indonesian students to the United States. I get some questions from natural family about this and that. I try to be as detailed and specific as possible, and trying to avoid emotions in it. So details and this is the problem. This is what happened. This is the situation. This is what we think. Never put any assumption, any emotion. And usually, after that, after the communication chain is working, we can usually get to the bottom of the problem and what can we do to support the students, to support the host family and natural family or Indonesian family. So suggestions might, I won't say suggestions, but because we do have our set of rules, we do have a set of tools on either side, from the US side, the placement organization side, and the sending or recruitment organization side. And if we work with that tool, we work with those rules and regulations, we usually can clear things up layer by layer. In case of emergency, of course, those communication line needs to work within 24 hours. But in a regular adjustment issues, we can usually go and on and on and on and on. But usually, we can resolve it within days. So.
So
Yeah.
there are systems to
Of course.
basically clear everything between families and
Yes.
the students, right?
Mhm.
Okay. To Kak Ari, what to do in terms of adjusting and opening up yourself towards differences that existed between family members?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Arfi, because I do have a siblings there. I have a host brother, same age as me. His name is Ben, right? So Ben is same age as me. We go schools together, but we are a very different person because he likes to playing video games, hang out, not really care about his study. Back then, yeah. Sorry, Ben, if you hear this, but yeah, Ben's kind of wild, and my host family always like, hey Ben, can you be more like Ari sometimes? To go to schools at the right time, go to school together, not like Ari, but hey, can you be together with Ari? Go. Accompany him to go to schools and study together, etc., etc. Right? But that's never happens until I left, because we're just a different person. But again, for me, and I think it will relevant to everyone that adjusting and also adapting with the surroundings is taking time. So time is the key to adjust with the new surroundings and address differences. I think the first 3 months, I'm not really talking a lot with Ben because we were very different, and he has his own world, and has a lot of different friends with me. But at the end of my my exchange program, right? I think the last 4 months, because he's also leaving the house soon because he was going to the college, and we start to open up. Like he's talking about, I will leaving my girlfriends here, blah blah blah, and then I'm not sure that I can leave this house because because mom's always taking care of everything, and then I will go to Wyoming and takes a lot of live by my own, right? He's starting to open up and also share my insecurities as well, and like how I feel really comfortable already in the US and soon going to home is going to be painful, and things like that. And I think, because what happens between those time, because we have those family activities together, we start to see what Ari's like and what Ben's like, and not ticking the our tick. Don't make us tick. It's just something that I learn time to time. Not just like, okay, I know I will have a host brother. I'll need to do this. No, we can. I think for teenagers that are going abroad, it will not be that easy to adjust because usually we are still focused on ourselves. We haven't have that sense of how we see people around us. But with time and we adjust, we will understand how a person or our house parents or house brothers, sisters do their own thing, and we can like go around it and be part of their life at the end. I think that's something that times will answer.
Okay, so get to know the other person better or deeper, right? And
Yep.
manage to basically have these connections between each other.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, times, but you need to put some effort for sure, right? That's something that also need to do because you for the exchange students you only have 1 year. Such a waste if you're not knowing, yeah, your horse family, your horse brother, sister as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Moving on to Miss Bunny, you've been hosted a lot of exchange students from many countries, right? And what is your goal? What is your main goal as a host family for up to 10 years?
So we started off hosting because we lived in a very small little town. Um, and we have a son who has health issues that prevent him from ever traveling. And we didn't want him to grow up believing that the whole world was like our little town. Um, for example, our second student that we hosted was from Thailand, and that was the first student ever of Asian descent in our school system. He would have never been exposed to any other cultures if we hadn't brought the world to him. Um, More and more, it became less about exposing him to the world and exposing us and our community and just really embracing the oneness of humanity. We're all so similar, and all we focus on um, typically in our everyday lives is the differences between us. You know, Indonesia is very different than the United States, but it's very similar too. We're both full of families that love each other. You know, kids have to go to school, parents have to work. It's all the same. And we need to embrace those rather than what social media and the news media tells us we have to focus on the differences. No, focus on the similarities, and we'll be so much better off. And so that's why that's why we hosted for so long. Is one for our son, and then two, it became for us and our community.
Okay, so you're basically bringing the world to your house, right?
Bringing the world home is one of the mottos of the how we recruit host families in Indonesia, and for the Yes program. That's one of the motto, bringing
Okay.
the world home.
Okay, bringing the world home.
Yes.
Okay. Um, Mrs. Bunny have said about the stereotypes, Kak Sari. What is your opinion about stereotypes and your view towards existing stereotypes?
Okay, so this is interesting. Usually, stereotypes happens a lot with the hosting community because it also happens in the hosting community in Indonesia. When they heard the word hosting and we are recruiting host families or host schools in Indonesian cities, they would say, "Oh, we're going to host an exchange student," and okay, but we want bule ya. We want Caucasian, European, and or American students. So, okay, we're going to host American students in Indonesia in 5 different cities or 5 different towns. So, when these Americans arrive in Indonesia, you get 5 American students with 5 very distinct physical appearance. because they come from different racial backgrounds. So, not just like what Bonnie said, it's not only hosting is not only educating the exchange student, not only educating the host family, but it's educating the whole community. Maybe this African American student is the first African American that you see in real life. Because I heard that, you know what? You are the first. I thought Black American or African American only exist on TV. But then this American student arrived in your home, arrived in your school. Well, there she is. I've never seen anyone like you before. But they learn, the host family learn, the student herself learn, and the community also learn about different cultures, that people can be different in appearance, but at the same time, very similar to us in terms of almost everything, except for physical appearance. And then breaking stereotypes would be would it involves a lot of factors, a lot of, not only physical appearance but also habits. Maybe you've heard about vegetarian, but then when you meet one, you would be in awe and you would want to ask questions. Maybe this Indonesian Muslim students wearing headscarf would be the first hosted in one rural American city, a small town, and then she would be asked a lot of questions. Those questions asked to you based on your physical appearance first. That's almost every case. But it doesn't mean that they want to stereotype you or they want to judge you or anything. Sometimes people ask questions because they want to know more about you. And just like what Ari said, you have to be open. You have to accept that question or that stare even, and be positive about that. Or maybe he just want to know more about me. Oh, I'm asking this question because I want to know more about you. So being always open also helps. So it focusing on similarities also works, because there are so much we can appreciate out of those differences, but also out of those similarities that turns out we all have, if you understand what I mean. But yeah, breaking
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
stereotypes has to happen from both sides, from the person who are arriving at at this new community, but also from the community itself. They have to be open and wanting to learn from each other.
Okay. Thank you, Kak Sari. Speaking about question being asked, the first question I ever get when I arrived to America was I was asked by one of the students in my high school, and he was one of my best friends during the program, and this is the first question that he asked to me: "Is there any mosquitoes in Indonesia?" It was pretty funny, but that's the first question, and actually being the start of our friendship there. Um, to Miss Bunny, what values have you and your family member has managed to gain after hosting many students from different backgrounds, and how to take advantage of existing opportunities to break the bias between different cultures and beliefs?
One of the best things that we gained from this program is an understanding of ourselves. I didn't realize just how biased I had been, or how many stereotypes I had about different cultures, different countries, different areas of the world. Just how ignorant I had been in my understanding. after hosting students for so many years and, helping others that I didn't host while they were here, um, a lot of my stereotypes have disappeared, and I'm starting to understand individualism rather than all Indonesians are like this, all Russians are like this, all Hispanics are like that. No, we're all individuals, just like all Americans are not the same at all, as I'm sure you all have discovered. um, all Texans are not the same. It's the breaking down the stereotypes and seeing people as individuals is it's what the program is about. It's it's just an amazing um, growth experience for myself, for my family, um, for the community that we had these students in, and for the exchange students as well.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Bunny. Do you have anything to say, Kasari?
No, it's been perfectly.
Yeah, perfectly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's perfect. Coming from Bonnie, it's perfect. Yes.
Okay, moving on to our next segment is questions from the audiences. So if you have any questions, just type in, and we're going to ask our speakers. So first questions from Instagram. Melian asked Kak Sari, what do you see we have in common from different country?
Oh, what do I see? Um, oh, there are a lot of things that we have in common actually. When you say, "Oh, Indonesians likes to smile," well, Americans do that too. They like to say hello to whomever you meet on the street. Like, or do you think that Europeans are more individual than Indonesians? Oh, but we do have Indonesians who are individual as well, who likes to work alone, who likes to rush, etc. So, what you think is different or what you think is similar, you have to come back to what values you find important. Your individual values that are important. Some might think that being religious is not important, but others might think being religious is important. You might find someone from your own closest community that has the same value as you or as different as you are. So, looking for similarities, commonalities, or difference between cultures, you might want to dig deeper than just watching movies or TV shows. It helps that nowadays internet, social media is very, it opens up an entirely new universe or new world. If you can make new friends, you might find uh, that out. What does Americans and Indonesians have in common? What is different? What if I say how do you say this? How Asians interact with how Europeans interact. So if you can find that out by yourself, that would be more fun actually. So you can start by being a host family, maybe. Or yeah. Um, that's not an easy question to answer because you have to experience it by yourself. But starting small, maybe from your closest community, you might be able to practice that with your own friends. And then moving on, you might find a bigger perspective. And then you can see things how different or how common things are.
Yeah, how similar
Yes.
things with different backgrounds,
Yes.
right? Do you have any perspective or story about this, Kari? About the what's the similarity of different countries, like the
That you think,
people?
oh, the Americans are
Yeah.
just the same like me, gitu kan.
Yeah, I think Kasari and Boni already said really clearly, right? The most common thing from all of us, because we are all human and individuals. Individuals have their own behavior. They have they have their own characters. So I think that's knowing and understanding that everybody is each a unique individuals. I think that's something that are the similarities that are perfectly the same in all of us. I think that's it.
Okay. What do you think, Miss Bunny? Do you know about any similarities from people from all around the world?
Again, we're all individuals, and you know, we all come into the world the same way, very similar, and we all go out the same way. It's our lives here. Um, Again, you know, children have to go to school, they have to be educated around the world. Parents work to provide for their families. And then, you know, there's differences, but there's so many similarities. And children want to have fun. They want to experience things. They want to push the rules and the boundaries, and parents want to reel them in. It's the same around the world. Um, the biggest thing is, just because somebody's different doesn't mean they're wrong. Just because somebody handles a situation differently than you do doesn't mean their way is wrong. And that's where we need to stop, is thinking just because somebody's different than us, they have to be wrong.
Okay, totally agree with you, Miss Bunny. Next question from Instagram. The username is Rena. What interests you the most about exchange student, Miss Bunny?
Just how amazing and brave these students are to leave their families, their homes, their way of life, and come to a completely different country and just immerse themselves. The it's always amazed me how much the rest of the world teaches languages, and here in the United States, we feel like we shouldn't or don't need to teach any other language. You may get a little bit in high school, but other than that, so it's amazing how the rest of the world is embracing the world culture so much more than the United States is. I still feel like we are stuck in being separate, or this might not be the venue to say it, but Americans from the United States have a rather superior attitude about our country, our culture. And so these students who were brave enough to come here and embrace it and dive right in, they're just, I can't say enough about them and their families to say, okay, I've done sufficient job raising you that I believe you will be successful at that. That's something I can't imagine doing.
Okay, do you have anything to say, Kasari?
No, I totally agree. And adding to that, hosting an exchange student also breaks stereotypes of yourself. Sometimes you think, I'm like this is how I live, and this is how Indonesians are. Then you host a student from other country, and then I was like, oh, okay. There's always an aha moment, and it turns out that you are breaking your own stereotype about yourself.
Okay, very good point there. Speaking about value, Miss Bunny, there's a question from Sagita from Facebook. What is the most valuable thing that you get for being a host family?
The love and long term friendship and relationships. Um, the majority of my students, I still keep in touch with. It's amazing on my birthday or Mother's Day. I have to set aside and say, this is time for like my US family only because there's so many messages and so many students wanting to contact and well wishes and things like that. But the lifelong friendships that my children will have, that I will have, um, you can't beat that. And then the learning and the understanding that we now have about ourselves and about the rest of the world is amazing.
Okay, thank you, Miss Bani. Moving on to Kaari, a question from Hani on Zoom. What is your biggest fear before going to the US?
Yeah. Okay. So my biggest fear when I was back then is I will sacrifice a year going to abroad, but I gain nothing from it. I gain no friendship. I gain no relationship with the family. I don't get. I'm not learning something new. Something like that is something that really hound me back then. So that's my biggest fear, that I will not uh, I will waste like a year for nothing, basically, right? But turns out anything that happens during the year, as long as that you put your mind and your heart into it, be present in every single moment during that year, is the key, so that you can learn a lot. Like you will not miss anything, even though as simple as I learned about compassion, actually, like how to live as a person that can be passionate and compassionate with others. I learned that because this is a story. Apology, Arfi, to ask to answer this with a story. Yeah. So I'm I was part of the volleyball team back in the US. Actually, I'm just a bench warmer. I think the team is took pity on me because I'm a section student and I applied for the training recruitment, and I get accepted somehow. But I play very few minutes during the game, right? And my team is very good, was very good back then. And my host parents know that because they know that I will not play much. I will just will sitting mostly on the bench, but they came to the game every single time. Every game. I'm just sitting on the bench, but they cheer me up. There's a moment that I go back home, and that day I'm not playing any single minutes. Usually I play like a bit of like the last 5 minutes to cheer me up or something. I'm not sure, right? But that game, maybe because that's a tough game and I'm going home, and then I'm kind of sad because I'm not playing any minutes. But my family said to me, my dad especially hugged me, and then like, Ari, we're so proud of you. You make it. Even though that you didn't play or didn't win, you contribute a lot to the team. Blah blah blah, and so on. Right? It teach me that how be compassionate with others and how to appreciate uh, a person, even though maybe they are not doing well, but at least they're trying their best. It's something that I learned from American family, that because here in Indonesia somehow I see that if you're not accomplishing something, you get like mocked by anyone, But back there, even though that you are not doing good or doing well, as long as you're doing your best, everyone still appreciate it. So
Yeah.
that's something that I learned.
I really can relate about the sports.
Yeah.
Like growing, never playing tennis, or probably never played football before. Going to the U.S., getting into this extracurricular where you can actually play American football. Oh, I learned a lot, even though I'm just probably being a bench warmer on the side of the field, right? But I learned a lot. Um, Next question is for Kak Sari from Facebook, from Arda. What makes you happy in doing your job as the program coordinator for exchange student, Kak Sari?
What makes me happy? Okay. Oh. Yeah, I've been in this position for 14 years.
14 years.
14 different batches. I'm not gonna say happy, but it's rewarding. What is rewarding is when the students, these exchange students, are coming back from program. That's when I see how they change, how they transform, how they grow, how they grow their confidence, etc., and how they overcame their challenges. That's when it's that moment is the most rewarding in my job. I think that sometimes I do think that, okay, this is not measurable by anything, this rewarding feeling. I mean, I knew how Ari before he went on program. I knew how Arfi was before he went on program. And looking at them coming back from the program, day one, they start on the re-entry orientation camp, and then, oh wow. And what makes me proud is when these alumni can actually grow themselves further after the program, and then giving back to their communities, giving back to whatever they're doing it, whatever they're doing, and advance themselves further, and paying everything forward. That makes me proud. So I think those two are. If you ask me why am I still here for 14 years,
No one can replace you, Kak.
Oh, there will be someone who can replace me.
Sometimes.
Okay.
Also,
But yeah.
every year you feel younger, right, Kak Asari? You always deal with the teenagers.
I think so, yes. That contributes to me staying young.
Okay, thank you, Kak Sari. The next question is for Mrs. Bani. A question from BJ Swamintaya from Zoom. As a responsible host, do they impose a curfew to the coming guests to their house? How will they react if they are naughty coming late at night? What is the best moment between two-sided to make a ceasefire if there is a problem? And on the table of dinner to ease atmosphere.
That's a lot of questions. um, so yes, there are curfews. It is very helpful to have those host family rules before the students ever arrive. We always email them to the students beforehand so that they understand. We're pretty liberal with our curfews, but that being said, we're also very strict about them. For example, school nights have one curfew and non-school nights have another curfew. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on whether you're a parent or a student, there's not a lot for students to do late at night. We're not a culture that has the oh gosh, what do they even call them? The discotheques or the clubs or things like that late at night, like some of the European countries. do. So typically, um, the kids don't want to be out and doing things. We also have many of our cities um, have a curfew by law for students. Um, Many of our students, we get our driver's license a little bit earlier here in the United States, but the kids can't be out after a certain hour. They can't drive a certain number of other friends in their car. So we have a lot of help with enforcing the curfew. As far as what to do when a student is acting naughty, just like at home in your country, it depends on how they're acting naughty. If that they are being on their phone too much in school or at family time, we may put the phone aside, take it from them, set it on the counter or something along those lines. If they are not going to school, then we get the administrator of the school or the administrators of the volunteers from the programs involved. Okay, what's going on? Why are you not going to school? Not doing your work? Those sorts of things. It all depends on what they're not doing. I will tell you, one of my favorite punishments, so to speak, or redirections was always to make the student write about their behavior and why they were doing it. Because so many times um, when the students would get frustrated or nervous or worried about, being in trouble, they would lose their ability to speak in English. And so writing it would help them to better communicate why they were misbehaving, how they were going to correct the behavior, the impact that it had on their host family or their community, those sorts of things. Um, I think I answered all those questions. I'm not sure.
You did. It was perfectly answered, Miss Bunny. Thank you. Probably our last question is to Ka Sari. What about the opportunities for future host families or exchange students that wanted to be involved in any programs? Do you have any?
Oh, yes. We do have hosting programs in Indonesia. We welcome uh, exchange students abroad from abroad. We welcome abroad students from the United States every year. We welcome other exchange students from other countries. Of course, during the pandemic, we had to stop, but we are restarting. So there's always a new opportunity to open your home. So bringing the world home. You might find how to host. You might want to take a look at our social media of Bina Antar Budaya or AFS Indonesia. There's a website, afsindonesia.org. You can find out how to host there, and you can send your inquiries. Our social media, Instagram is also open. There are a lot. There are, well, not a lot, but there are informations about being a host family there. You can also go to the closest chapter near you. We have 20 chapters.
20 chapters.
20 chapters throughout Indonesia. 15 of those are hosting. So yes, you can always contribute. You can always try to become that part, the part of the supporting network of bringing the world home. If you cannot be a host family, you can always be the volunteer supporting those exchange students at school or in your community. So there are a lot of ways to be involved in this wonderful world of exchange program. if you're, oh, I'm too old to be an exchange student, well, you can always be a volunteer. You can ask your family maybe to become a host family. So yeah, there are a lot of ways to connect with a lot of people around the world. So yeah, let's just hope that this bringing the world home can also bring that sense of unity and of course bringing peace in the world.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kak Sari. That was it for today's discussion. We hope everybody can learn that that diversity only exists for us to explore deeper and practice tolerance and understanding. Thank you at America team and the U.S. Embassy in Indonesia in Jakarta for the opportunity. Speakers, Miss Bani, Kak Sari, Kak Ari, thank you for your time and also for sharing the approaches in embracing tolerance and love in a multicultural family.
Thank you, Kak
Thank you
Afi.
so
Thank you,
much at America for
everyone.
having me.
On behalf
Thank you,
of everyone
Bonnie.
involved,
Thank you.
thank you for participation and see you again next time. Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, once again, give a big applause for our speaker and moderator for today. So that was our discussion about diversity in the US, and it's so lovely to hear the stories. And thank you so much for joining our discussion today. So early in this event, we had a question of the day. The question was, is it true or false the multiracial population in the US has remained the same since 2010? And the answer is false. In fact, it has increased from 9 million people to 33.8 million. Shout out to @million from Instagram for answering correctly. Thank you to everyone who has participated to our question of the day. Don't forget to stay tuned to our social media trivia to get a live shout out from us. Now, you may be wondering how can I develop an awesome idea with a place like this? Very easy. You can send your event proposals to us on our website at www.atamerica.or.id. Select create a program and go to collaborate with us. All the event proposals will be reviewed and your event might be featured here soon. Also, while you are on our website, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to get our weekly event updates. You can also find us on social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at AT America. You can get fun content, giveaways, and so much more. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, thank you for joining us. My name is Aninda, and see you next time. Bye-bye. Okay, for